What's up, GERO 508? All right, so today's Saturday, and this is week 4, assignment 8. We're going to be talking about the gut microbiome. So from now on, sure, we're going to be talking about some of the risk factors to cause stress and mind consequences. It would be depression and anxiety and even degenerative diseases like Alzheimer's and Parkinson's. But we're also going to talk about, hey, this is what we have at our disposal to fix things, to make things better. Okay, so this is what this week's lecture is all about: the gut microbiome and the interaction between the gut, the immune system, and the brain is all about. All right, very cool. So I guess I'm 5.5 days out from, of course, this. All right, and I'm trying to behave. It's hard to behave when you're active. You're an athlete. You're basically always completely out of your mind doing things. But I'm doing my best and wearing this harness right here. Okay. Um, Forces me not to be grabbing things with my right arm, my dominant hand. So I'm getting pretty good to be a lefty here, so I don't tear things up. Okay, because things have got to heal. The immune system we're going to be talking about today. Okay, a big part of the immune system is wound repair. Okay, so it goes in there and it will gobble up a lot of the damage that has happened during the surgery. Okay, the incisions, some of the scraping that was done on the rotator cuff, the threading, okay, throughout the tears in the rotator cuff, and then the fastening of the bicep tendon to a new spot in the rotator cuff. While it was all intended for fix, there's also a lot of damage going on at that point in time. So the immune system goes in there, and it's a garbage collector, and it finds the bad damaged cells. It finds the cells that have been actually necrotic, that have fallen apart during surgery. It will gobble them up, processes them, get rid of them, all right, goes into the lymphatic system. Ultimately, the tissue then gets digested and pushed out as debris to the liver and the kidneys. Okay, that's the way we work. The immune system is the bomb. You got to have it. Okay, at the same time, while it's doing this, it's stimulating stem cells. Okay, all throughout that region because I need to produce brand new cells to remodel the connective tissue. So that's what this is all about right now too. So basically, I had 1, 2, 3 incisions across the shoulder. Okay, and then I got and they were about, I don't know, maybe about 3/4 of an inch, and then and that was really for removal of the bone spurs and also remodeling the joint in terms of sewing together the partial tears that I had in the rotator cuff, which is a big giant ligament that holds all the bones together. And then at the same time, okay, a pretty sizable incision here, maybe about 1.5 inches underneath the armpit, because the surgeon had to get in there, okay, grab hold of the stump that was left behind of the biceps tendon and reattach it to a new spot in the rotator cuff. Okay, so that's all. So you don't want to be messing with it right now because all kinds of new stem cells are going in there and doing their thing. That's the drill right here. All right. So, I just got to behave. I actually feel pretty good, which is fairly remarkable. You play hard, you pay hard. We actually have a lot of athletes in this class. We're all, weekend warriors. Some of us are more, more pro grade in terms of our athletic direction. And it's what I'm talking about. You push yourself, and that's pretty much what I did my whole life. And I used to be a pretty decent basketball player. I was the #1 tennis player in my high school team. I then found surfing and snowboarding. I'm kind of an X game mentality. It takes a whole different kind of brain to do that, just to let you guys know. All right. There's something actually. When you're an athlete at the highest level, which I kind of was for a while, people would say, "Hey, that person's got a screw loose." In reality, that person has major differences in their dopamine reward system, and the only way they feel whole is to go out there and push themselves hard, doing really, really crazy athletic endeavors. So that's my drill here. All right. So guess what? As soon as I'm healed, I'm back out there again. Okay, that's just the way I do my life. And I've talked. You call your support group. So I called up all my friends that are surfers and snowboarders, etc., that have torn their rotator cuffs. Had this kind of surgery, and tried to get a consensus. One good buddy of mine, he just couldn't hold back, and he had both shoulders done. He was late 50s, and he tore both out again. Okay, because he went out about 2 months after surgery. All right. Another friend of mine, slightly older than me, he behaved. He waited 4 months, and he's really happy. So I'll probably be 4 months out of the water. Imagine that, 4 months not being able to play tennis or basketball, whatever your thing is, football. But that's what you got to do in order to come back as good as you were. All right. So that's my story. All righty, guys. So I'm going to be using one hand here. I can actually use both hands, but I'm doing this lefty, which is kind of cool. I'm learning how to use my left hand and be a lot more efficient. That's my story, guys. A little bit too much about me, but that's okay. Alrighty. So what we're going to do here now is we're going to go down to assignment 8. All right. So you guys done a phenomenal job. Also, I do want you to understand that go in and check the grading. We look at every discussion. We look at every primary post that you do, but we also look at the post you're doing on your classmates' posts and looking at your interacting. What's really cool about it too is I don't know if you guys have figured this out, but when you get out of life what you put into life, and when I'm watching and when I'm looking at you guys, not only your posts, but you're looking at your commentary on your friends' posts, is that the students become teachers. Either through your interpretation of the assignment that week, or by thinking about the assignment and then saying, hey, in my real life, this is happening. So, the fact that you can apply your new knowledge and your learning to what's going in your life or what's happened in your life previously, or maybe what's happening in the future, but it's definitely an applied use of knowledge is phenomenal. So you guys, I'm learning tons from you as well as Julie as we look through this, okay? Alrighty, so the last venture was psychoneuroimmunology. Okay, so that was a big one. So we are going to still connect up that concept of psychoneuroimmunology. Okay, the difference going to be, okay, is we're going to look at the unique immune response to fluctuations in your gut bacteria. Okay, and they fluctuate based on, yes, you can get food poisoning. Okay, that's the worst case scenario. But they're also fluctuating because we have millions and millions of bacteria in our gut. I mean, it's phenomenal how many bacteria in our gut. One report said we had more bacterial cells than we do have cells in our body. Okay, in our gut, and that they're sitting in there, and we have a cooperative relationship. Okay, they survive and we survive. Okay, they help digest the food that we eat. Okay, stuff like fiber that's kind of coarse and really hard to get each of the unique nutritional ingredients out of something like fiber, certain proteins, etc. They digest it, they take their portion, and then what's left behind, it makes it easy for us to absorb it into our bloodstream, and then we use it to make new muscle, new brain tissue, new brand new cells in the immune system, brand new cells in your vasculature, et cetera, et cetera. We have this cooperativity, okay? But, okay, when you have nasty bacteria down there in the gut, then the immune system says, hey, these things are nasty. They can take it over. They can actually be life-threatening. So we're going to sound the immune alarm. And that's what happens when you eat certain kinds of food, or let's say you just have a GI infection, okay? And so then we have this chronic inflammation come out of the gut, and the inflammation messengers, these are called immune cytokines, okay? There's a lot of different kinds of these messengers that are sent out there to alert the entire immune system that we got a problem in the gut. It also goes up into the brain to alert the brain, hey, we got a problem in the gut, okay? And we know that inflammation, okay, as it enters the brain, is a predisposing factor for a lot of mental health issues, like Parkinson's, like Alzheimer's, okay? Even stroke is an inflammatory disease, okay? And then we also look at the affective disorder, depression and bipolar disease and schizophrenia. All of these are impacted by inflammation, right? So the psychoneuroimmunology is appropriate in that it preceded this particular unit, which is Unit 8. Unit 7, sorry. And I see it right there, okay? So we'll be sending out a study guide on how to crank on the midterm, okay? It's multiple choice questions, you're gonna do fine. Same questions that were presented in your weekly quiz questions. You can hear a little crackling in my voice, okay? That's because guess what? I was put under, okay, with general anesthesia. I was intubated, okay, and and so I'm still kind of healing here in the back of my trachea. It is what it is, okay? So my voice is not 100%. All right, very cool. So let's take a look at these interactions here. I absolutely love this section, okay? Because it's just something that you can take hold of and do something about. All right. So I just kind of outlined right here. Of course, my lecture is going to go right there. Outline right here the structure of this week's assignment about the gut microbiome. Okay. Again, this is assignment 7, and so what we see here. And I apologize, I'm not going to do the video over again. I said assignment 8, okay, and that is my ADHD that made me so good at surfing and athletics and stuff like that. So, you think ADHD is a bad thing? Nah, not so much, okay? Certain things, it is what you want to have, okay? All right, so we see right here, okay? So we're going to go over this reading, okay? It's complicated, guys, but we summarize it, okay? Again, you always just take what you can out of it. There's some really cool figures, okay? And in terms of how much you need to absorb, for performance on the quiz, you don't have to absorb that much, okay? We're going to go over a couple of videos in here. I'm going to take you to the future of treating microbiome disorders, okay? And then at the very end down here, as I said, for your enlightenment, okay? And when I say I can still lift my hand up here, so I'm going to bring it up here. And what I'm talking about here is there's all the stuff we're going to discuss right here, okay? All right, cool videos, very, very, very awesome stuff. And then down here we have 2 different articles about a very current approach, okay? It's getting a lot more notoriety as people are a lot more aware of their diet and how it influences their health. And it's very relevant to, we may have a couple students in this class right now that are part of our nutrition master's of science in gerontology. And so what happens is these students become registered dietitians, and they then will work with different health practitioners, part of the health practitioning team, in terms of designing a diet that is the best in terms of their patient's current situation, okay, and globally long-term in terms of trying to reduce and prevent disease. And that's what we're getting right here. We're going to talk about right here is the dietary inflammatory index. And this has been around for a while, but it's making a comeback, okay? And so you can then work with a registered dietitian who can set up for you a really, really nice meal plan that is going to be the best possible situation in terms of you feeling happy, because you got, food cannot be your enemy, food is your friend, but food can also be medicine. And so the concept of these articles is what kinds of foods can we design in a meal plan that we can design that'll be really fun to eat, that also will reduce your risk for a number of disease conditions, okay? We see down here, this is looking at the inflammatory potential, and this can go anywhere from irritable bowel syndrome to cardiovascular disease to even brain disorders, okay? So that's what that's all about. Alrighty, so let's go back up here. So I love this GIF right here. And what it shows is a summary of all the things that's going to happen in this article that we're going to talk about, okay? So we see, guys, down here the bacteria. And the bacteria are going to change based on what you're eating. Like I said, we have millions of bacteria in our gut. millions of different species, okay? They come in different categories, and certain bacteria are better equipped to eat red meat, and other bacteria are better equipped to eat, say, legumes, okay? So black beans and red beans and pinto beans and lentils and things like that, okay? Some bacteria are better equipped to eat celery, all right? So whatever you're eating, those bacteria would just instantaneously go and take off, okay? And depending on the kind of bacteria that they are, okay, they can be really good, okay, in terms of promoting certain types of neurotransmitters in the local gut area that influence gut neurons. And then these neurotransmitters can then also go straight up into the brain and influence your overall mental health, okay? 5-HT is shorthand for serotonin, and we have more 80% of the serotonin in our body. We know with antidepressant medication like a Prozac or a Zoloft, the goal is to increase serotonin transmission and then to improve moods and a place of belonging and well-being by increasing serotonin in the brain. But we can also do this by the kind of food we eat, okay? Not all the serotonin gets up into the brain, all right? Most of it gets consumed and locally and used by the local neurons. They're going to pop up down here again, right? Enteric neurons, and they're coming right in here, all right, which is a whole different nervous system that we can't even talk about. All right, so down here we have lots of different neurons that impact how the gut works, okay? And then there are different bacteria that affect the levels of tryptophan, okay? And tryptophan is the building block to make serotonin. So if you have less tryptophan, less serotonin, this part of the nervous system in the gut doesn't work as well, and up here this doesn't work as well, either the brain, all right? So this is, and how do we know all this, okay? What you do is you study thousands, hundreds of thousands, millions of people, okay? You look at their diets, okay? And you then have a psychological like index, like a lot of you guys did in your paper, but then you categorize it based on the typical diet this person eats, and you start then making inferences, correlations, okay? And this is called epidemiology, all right? And that's, it's a big part of public health where you're trying to look at the outcome, somebody's psychological well-being, and connect it to some type of practice that these people have. Could be exercise, like a lot of you guys propose in your papers, could be having pets around the house, and it could be what you eat and the resulting bacteria that happens down in here. All right. You see, you got here a dendritic cell, B cell. These, my friends, are the immune system. Okay, and they react in two different ways. Okay, sometimes the kinds of food you eat will cause the release of cytokines that are called anti-inflammatory cytokines. All right, that's awesome. Okay, it could be something like interleukin 10, beta endorphins. Okay, these guys help to reduce the inflammation all throughout your body. Alternatively, if you're eating a lot of red meat, a lot of fat, a lot of sugar, okay, so it is what it is. Donuts with lots of lots of sucrose, etc. Then the bacteria will take off, and what it's going to do is these guys are going to be coming in, and this right here is an example of an irritated gut cell, okay, that causes what's called leaky gut syndrome. Activating here is another irritated gut cell right here, and then these guys become activated and they release pro-inflammatory. We're going to make you inflamed cytokines that go all throughout the body. They go throughout the gut. They can cause problems like celiac disease, irritable bowel syndrome, Crohn's disease, on and on and on and on. And they go up to the brain and contribute to feelings of clinical depression, and long-term thought to be relatable to development of dementia and Parkinson's disease. In fact, one of the first signs that somebody has Parkinson's disease has to do with gut issues, okay? And it's thought that the inflammation in the gut, these toxins begin to kill off dopamine neurons down here in the gut, and the end result is they have lots and lots of constipation and gut motility issues, all right? Then the same toxins go up into the brain and kill off the substantia nigra. So very, 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 very interesting stuff, okay? You see it says afferent, okay, all right? Afferent means access to the brain, Okay, so we're looking at nerve cells that gain access to the brain. These are sensory neurons, neurons that are down there as sensors monitoring what's going on in the gut, okay? And then information exits the brain, okay? That's within E for efferent, and it comes down here, and as we saw, it can influence gut motility through the activation of your autonomic nervous system, right? And that autonomic nervous system is, remember, the rest and digest, which is the acetylcholine, or the fight and flight, which would be the release of adrenaline, which is shown right here, okay? And we know that adrenaline will then also cause an abnormal, if it's chronically activated, activation of the immune system and create inflammation. So that's what this beautiful GIF is all about, okay? All righty, cool. So let me go back up here. And so I'm just going to kind of coach you through the article. These are the key elements, okay? So that information highway, okay, that goes between the brain and the gut and the gut and the brain is called the vagus nerve, okay? It's a big old giant nerve, all right? And so like I said, it's carrying sensory information. There are sensors down there about what's going down in your gut, okay? It tells you what kind of undulations and motility as food is coursing through your stomach, through your gut. It also gives feedback information about the kind of bacteria that are down there because it's responding to some of the toxins that bacteria can release, all right? It informs the brain, okay? And then the brain will then in turn activate, remember, the hypothalamic pituitary adrenal axis, okay? There is an emotional part called the limbic system. The prefrontal cortex and hippocampus are all part of the limbic system. Who else is part of the limbic system? All right, the one is the initiator of anger, fear, and anxiety, okay? And that would be our amygdala, all right? So we could see that what's going on in your gut influences this, and this has been shown over and over. You can actually take primates, okay, and put crap into their gut and stick an electrode into the amygdala, okay, and see changes in activity. So it's very real in terms of animal studies, all right? All right, and then similar, so these are ascending up into the brain from the gut, okay? All right, so ascending meaning it gets access to the brain, and then descending, you see the E right there, exits the brain, and then and basically influences, like I said, this automatic nervous system, the autonomic nervous system, and gut motility, adrenaline, et cetera, okay? We have lots of hormones that are influenced by the gut bacteria. We don't have time to go over all these guys right here. This is a pain neurotransmitter that creates lots of activation of our stress system. You know, if you've ever had, oh man, I ate something wrong, you're all crampy and painful in your gut. Well, guess what? Are you happy? Or are you stressed out about it? You're stressed out about it, okay? All right, and that's what this this transmitter does. We heard about GLP-1, okay, and 2. That's Ozempic, Risbelius, Wegovy, okay. This is the one that is the new diet injection that is all the rage in Hollywood, okay. Also, super good for elevating insulin. All right, so it's one of its primary job is to elevate insulin when you've had a meal. Okay, all righty. Like I said, we have tryptophan. Tryptophan is, we've all heard about the sleepiness that you get from turkey, and turkey's high in tryptophan. There's lots of different foods that have tryptophan, nuts and lentils, etc. And then that tryptophan, which is just a single amino acid, okay, then gets converted into this active compound that helps our gut do its job, okay, and that's serotonin, okay, and then also goes up into the brain. Now you see here that the gut nervous system is incredibly complicated, has tons of dopamine, tons of serotonin, okay. Dopamine is your feel-good neurotransmitter. And you see most of the serotonin that gets manufactured by the tryptophan that's coming in from a meal gets immediately absorbed by the gut to then keep the gut going, doing its thing. It keeps those neurons firing so that you're absorbing food just in the right way. But in addition, okay, it goes up into the brain, a small percentage, okay, 5%, all right? And then some of the tryptophan that doesn't get used by the gut goes up into the brain as well, all right? So it's been shown that when you have a really crappy diet, all right, you activate these enzymatic systems that reduce the availability of tryptophan, reduce the amount of serotonin, and then leads to GI disturbances because now the gut nervous system doesn't work as well. And as we know, serotonin is super important for my mood, so it reduces it there. All right, the immune system. Okay, we've talked about this again. 70% of the body's immune system can be found down in the gut. Why is that? Okay, think about it. And the immune system is our surveillance system, and it's always sitting there ready to act if there is some type of entry into your body from the outside world. Well, how do we have entry into the outside world? I don't know. I'm getting nervous right here. I think I'm going to bite my nails. Oh, no. Guess what? A bunch of bacteria just went into my mouth. Okay? So every time you eat, every time you put something in your mouth, it is this onslaught of bacterial assault, and your immune system needs to nip it in the bud right away. So that's why we have a ton of immune system cells down in our intestines. Okay? Then what happens, okay? Alrighty, so if you eat crappy food, lots of red meat, lots of fat, lots of simple sugar like candy, okay, then that causes certain bacteria to just dominate and take over, okay? And then what happens, okay? You get leaky gut, okay? The immune system says, oh my God, when you have leaky gut, the bacteria starts actually leaving the inside of your intestine, starts going across the intestinal wall and entering the bloodstream. Okay, and so the immune system says none of that, and it launches an attack, pro-inflammatory. Okay, so if you're eating crappy food all the time, you're going to be in this pro-inflammatory state all the time. All right. Again, here's this altered intestinal permeability. Okay, and it's been shown that stress. Now, how would stress do this? Adrenaline. Okay, being released down in the gut alters the immune system, okay? Increases immune system, increases immune activation. That helps in terms of this permeability change. And what else? Cortisol, okay? Also causes changes in gut function, right? So, and it goes all the way back to that, and you can read through this some more, all right? Microbial metabolites, okay? So what are those? Okay, it can be just the surface of the bacteria that we've been watching up here, okay? Or it can be, as the bacteria die, bits and pieces, okay, of the bacteria. They're little proteins. These are called antigens that the immune system is going to respond to and be activated by those antigens, all right? That's how that system works, all right, guys? Okay, so if we come back up here, I've kind of gone through everything. You can then check out this article. As always, we have the URL right here, and we also, have the PDF file right here, okay? Just in case it doesn't work. All right, so I'm going to click on this sucker right here, and you get what you can out of this, okay? Don't forget to go ahead and open your quiz and go through this article and what I had to say, and you'll be able to answer things fine. So this is a simplified guide to the gut-brain axis, okay? How the brain and the gut talk to each other. So it's a really cool article. Really well done, very approachable, okay? So they talk about, again, the GBA, the typical science papers. I don't want to have to say the same thing over and over again, so we have this acronym. Bidirectional, all right? So what's going on in the gut is going to influence the brain. What's going on in the brain, my current mental health is going to influence my gut, okay? And it goes back and forth, okay? How's it going to influence my gut? Okay, it's going to change my level of activation of my autonomic nervous system, and stress hormones are going to be going down there from my mental health that are going to influence the bacteria and the leakiness of my gut, all right? All right, so here's our hypothalamic pituitary axis. Here's the autonomic nervous system, all these things that we've been talking about, okay? All right, GBA, what is that? The gut-brain axis, okay? All right, so, as we scroll down here then, okay, try not to raise my my right arm. It's so hard. Okay, in fact, I got to do my PT as soon as I get done here, all right? So, there's been this crazy outpouring of interest and science and then clinical aspects to understanding the human microbiome. This human microbiome project is amazing, amazing. Okay, so it says right here, all right, the genetic material in the microbiome is 150 times greater than the human genome. It shows you the diversity. There are approximately 10 to the 14th organisms in the gut. Okay, 10 to the 14th. Okay, I know that 10 to the 12th is a trillion, so that's 100 trillion different types of gut bacteria. Okay, so tenfold more cells than are in the entire human body. Mind-boggling, mind-boggling to think about that. Okay, all right. So we look at the gut-brain link. Okay, first they talk about the vagus nerve. Okay, and we don't have time to really go over all the different aspects of science of curing problems like, say, clinical depression. But it has been shown if somebody is not, it's expensive, okay, there's risk, okay, because it's a surgical procedure, but let's say somebody's not responding to the traditional antidepressant medication, that a cuff can be inserted around the vagus nerve and you can stimulate it, and it causes an activation of the upcoming access to the brain, okay, the vagus nerve afferent up into the brain, and it then will increase the activity of the prefrontal cortex. Has been shown to reduce levels of clinical depression if done in just the right way. So it's really, really, really amazing stuff, okay? We see down here, okay, our vagus nerve getting access to our emotional brain, okay, our limbic system, the amygdala, okay, prefrontal cortex, the hippocampus, okay? So nerve cells of the vagus nerve, okay, all right, are coming up this way, all right? We also have, like I said, enteric nerve cells down here, all right? And those just they modulate the activity of smooth muscle cells, etc., acid secreting cells, mucus secreting cells down in the gut, okay? All right, here's our immune system right here, okay? So you just kind of look through this and you can see that there is this interaction between the immune system down there and the vagus nerve, okay? All righty. I talked about interference with tryptophan metabolism. That's a big deal, okay? That can happen if you have really, really crappy bacteria that influence how tryptophan is metabolized, okay? We talked about altered permeability in the leaky gut syndrome, okay? And again, you eat red meats and you eat lots of candy, this is what's going to happen right here. This one, like I said, there's millions of different types of bacteria, but this guy will then take over. The other guys die off. Now you have this crappy bacteria. There's more sugar, so he self-populates. Okay, and he outpopulates everybody else. Okay, the worst case scenario, and I had this once. Oh my God, I was so sick. Okay, so I had a sinus infection, and so the ear, nose, and throat surgeon threw some serious antibiotics to go after the sinus infection. The risk is, though, it's going to kill off a lot of my good bacteria as well, which it did in my gut, and I got this really horrendous gastrointestinal bacterial, I would call it an infection, but it's everybody was killed off except for C. difficile, and oh my God, I had the worst GI problems for so long because of that. Okay, what I did is I ate the right foods. Okay, I actually gave myself a little giddy up in terms of inserting new bacteria into the gut, and I finally got rid of that. All right, so maybe my C. difficile was doing this, but certainly if you're eating candy, it's doing this right here, causing leaky gut syndrome, activating the immune system, triggering the inflammatory cascade, okay, that activates this pathway that is pretty complicated. So just read through this right here and you'll gain a better understanding. This right here is super inflammatory, okay? This is the oxidation pathway right here. What do we see here? Reduced tryptophan, reduced serotonin. That's going to affect my mood, all right? Awesome, all right? So that's what that's all about. Okay, again, read through this, okay? Microbial metabolites right here, all right? These are the metabolites right here that are going to affect my transmitters in my gut and my brain, but also going to affect inflammation, and that's what that is right there, okay? Awesome. All right, this is complicated, but it talks about, again, this bidirectional pathway the hypothalamic pituitary adrenal axis, which you guys are super familiar with. The limbic system, okay? The amygdala goes nuts, stress, boom, all right? We release ACTH from the pituitary, okay? Goes to the adrenal gland, okay? It causes a release of cortisol, boom, okay? Comes down here and it augments the overproduction of really bad bacteria that cause inflammation. And now we're cycling, okay? All this inflammatory cytokines, okay, is the information is transmitted back up into the brain, okay, and creates even more release of stress on and on. So if you're really stressed out, sadly, oftentimes we'll go and I'm feeling down. I want to get like just a rush of good feeling, and no better way to get a rush of good feeling than a Snickers bar, okay? Because it elevates serotonin dramatically, straight up and straight down. Boom. So you get this spike and then it's over. And then you're like, you know what? I'd like a little more serotonin. So you eat another candy bar, okay? Straight up and straight down, okay? But then later on, you start feeling all shitty, okay? Why is that? Because this is what's going on right here. The Snicker bar bacteria has taken off, causing massive inflammation, and then it's activating this stress pathway, all right? Very cool stuff, guys. Very cool stuff. Okay, there it is right there, okay? Read through it some more. I'm done with that. I'm done with it, okay? And we're gonna go back in here. Now, so that's the reading, okay? And then in here, what I want you guys to then do is to take what you've learned and just absorb these really cool videos. So in the short one, it explains how bacteria all around our body. Okay, it's not, I mean, I have bacteria in my sinuses, of course. I have bacteria on my skin. Okay, I have bacteria everywhere. So your immune system is all about going after the bacteria. Then they go into the microbiome as well here, okay? They talk about here, yes, indeed, when people do have C. difficile, oftentimes you cannot overcome it. And so one of the best ways to reintroduce new bacteria into the colon is to do what's called a fecal transplant. And you get a donor feces from one of your best friends, okay, who's really healthy, okay, and you put their poo-poo right up your poop chute, and then the bacteria take off and repopulate your gut, okay. Just so much out there on that. There's been studies showing, for example, if you take the feces from a lean subject and stick it up into the colon of somebody who's obese, that they lose weight, okay? You take the feces from somebody who's obese, and you stick it up into somebody who's lean, they gain weight. So that's the whole story on that, okay? But we have to think of food as medicine, because food changes your gut bacterial content, which leads me to this, and please check this out, okay? So if you go to their website, all right, this is Vendata Biosciences, their whole new approach. Here's all the clinical trials that they're doing, okay? And what they do is they call bacteria medicine. It's a really amazing video.
The human body contains trillions of bacteria, most of them in the gut. They form what is known as the human microbiome. They play key roles in maintaining health. They educate our immune system, help prevent infections, and regulate metabolism. When this ecosystem is disrupted, serious, sometimes life-threatening diseases can result. The medicines developed to date have ignored the fact that human health is highly dependent on a balanced human microbiome. Vedanta is pioneering a new class of medicine, drugs that are made of consortia of live bacteria that colonize the gut.
New class of medicine, a consortium of bacteria that will colonize the gut. So what they have done, they've done the long haul epidemiology, but they looked at people that were really healthy, okay, looked at people that were really sickly for whatever reason. They sampled their feces, looked at the bacteria, and then said, okay, these healthy people have these 50,000 different types of bacteria. These diseased people have these 100,000 of bacteria that seem to promote disease, okay? And so once they began to identify the individual types of bacteria, then they take them out, they culture them, and they then grow pure lines of that bacteria that was growing in somebody who was healthy because they were mostly vegetarian, et cetera, et cetera. And then what they're doing is people that have really bad autoimmune disease in the gut, these are some of the trials, irritable bowel syndrome, they're introducing these bacteria they've grown in their laboratories and into the colon of these people, and they're getting really positive results.
Repair microbiome imbalances and stimulate targeted immune responses to treat disease. How does Vedanta pick the right bacteria to create an effective drug? Our approach is to create rationally defined bacterial consortia. By defined, we mean that our medicines are made from pure bacterial cell banks, not fecal material from donors. This allows us to precisely control the drug composition.
So from the epidemiology, they find out which ones are best in donors, okay? And then they grow, they don't take, because from a donor, you're gonna have, millions of different types of bacteria, okay? So what they then is I say, okay, the donor that is healthy has these types of bacteria. We're gonna now independently grow each type of bacteria. We're gonna call them medicine, and we're gonna give them to patients.
And make sure it does not contain unwanted bacteria. By rationally, we mean that we select the bacteria using a careful, systematic approach. First, we collect clinical data from interventional studies that investigate the gut microbiome of human subjects.
That's your epidemiology.
And identify communities associated with favorable clinical responses. We then verify whether these bacteria actually cause desirable health effects, such as reducing inflammation or inhibiting a pathogen. To do this in high throughput, we've created one of the world's largest, most diverse library of human commensal bacteria. We test strains from our library in proprietary assays and select those with the most potent pharmacological effects. We then assemble the selected strains in communities that work well together, using advanced computer methods to test thousands of promising combinations. Finally,
those advanced computer methods, that's machine learning, artificial intelligence, that really accelerates your approach to science. Believe me, it is dominating science right now.
We manufacture GMP-grade drug in our state-of-the-art manufacturing facility for use in clinical studies. At Vedanta, we take a rational, scientific approach to identifying, validating, and manufacturing a new class of drugs that have great potential for improving the health of millions of people. Vedanta Biosciences.
Again, they're calling these things drugs, but they're different lines of bacteria. I had to show that video because it blows my mind where we're going, man. These are such major advances. Think about that, how we may be able to treat clinical depression, reduce the risk of stroke and Alzheimer's disease just by introducing the right lines of bacteria, okay? And the other side of this, of course, is the nutritional inflammatory index. That is the other approach, okay? All right, so that's what that's all about, okay? All right, so this one right here gets into the discussion of the gut microbiome, how it affects the vagus nerve, and how that then is going to feed back and affect your overall mental health. I described the contents up here. GABA, for example, is a very sedating, calming transmitter, and based on the bacteria, not only does it affect serotonin and dopamine, but it can influence GABA. They can reduce anxiety. A lot of the anxiolytics that are out there are drugs that actually increase GABA, but here's a much more natural way to do that, okay? Awesome. And then we talk about a disease condition right here, okay? So they look at the overall assault locally in the small intestine, large intestines, and colon that happens when you have irritable bowel syndrome, okay? Crohn's disease, a lot of other autoimmune diseases that affect the gut. And the concept that these problems are autoimmune, initiating based on what's going on here in terms of what you eat. So maybe we can control these diseases, again, with a lot more logical approach in terms of the food that's going in and the inflammatory index of the food. Awesome. All right, guys, I've given you a lot to talk about, a lot to think about right here. Always look forward to your discussion. And I'm done. Check it out. I'm going to say bye with my, see, I'm pretty good. I'm actually going to do some PT right now to get some range of motion and hopefully not tear anything up. And yeah, so we're going to go over some more fun stuff for number 8 on tomorrow. And until then, guys, peace and hang in there.